The previous time we looked at this HTML head, we just stopped at title. But now we are going to go ahead and capture the rest of the bit. And the reason why we want to do this is because we are due to demonstrate the other parts of the head section. So we've already defined the head section as it being what holds the important part of your document. It's not visible, to the naked eyes, when just unlike the other content of the browser that you use, the body of the web page that you navigate through. It's not something that you easily see like that in the content, but it's visible in other parts. You're going to see where we get to see its own section. Now we looked at the title. We've used this title. Everybody in this class should be able to set a title of a web page. That is a given already. So the one that we are not yet used to is the meta tag. So what is the meta tag? We defined it the last time. I'm going to define it again. So the meta tag allows you to describe how the page is. More like you describe the page, in words. Describe what this page is supposed to achieve. And also keywords. What are the keywords that makes up of all these pages? So these things are very important because it helps the search engine to easily search for your content and bring it out to the browser. So if you search for anything on the web and you see a little description, that description that you see on Google search engine is what was put here by the author to say description of the website. Now, how does the tag of meta, how does it look like? It looks like this. The description is already there. You use meta as the tag name, and then you have an attribute which is name. Now this is what you can see the way I'm using the nomenclature now, attribute. So when I say attribute, you know that an attribute is within a tag. It's used within the enclosure of a tag, and it's supposed to add more information into that particular tag. So you are saying this meta name of an attribute is description. So you are saying that this meta, you are trying to describe the information about the web page, and the description, you have another attribute that says content. So you can now see the value of the content is what we've put inside this quote. Now the meta allows you to define more than one kind of property. This is just description property. The next property is like keyword property. So the meta tag allows you to do all those things, and there's a couple of write-ups there. So we are not gonna, this is not where we are going to, because we are not planning to deploy our websites for search engine to start using it. So we're not really focused on this. So is the next one I'm actually focused on. And this part is interesting because it allows you to visualize what is going on. It allows your web page that you've designed to fit into your device. It's called Viewport. Viewport is also a meta tag that you can see that I separated it from this one. It's also meta tag because meta tag has several properties. We just saw two properties now. The first property is description, and what that property is supposed to do is so that you can describe your website in such a way that if search engine is looking for your website, they will be able to see it based on the description and also with the keyword that you've used. This is just two property of meta. The next one that I just showed you now is called Viewport, and the purpose of this is to put your website in such a way that it will fit into the device that is consuming it. We're going to practicalize this. So this is the reason why I'm showing you head. What we're coming through here is just for the viewport and to explain what the viewport is. Now look at the tag. The tag carries meta. That's the name of the tag, and then the attribute, that it has to show that the property of what you are trying to achieve is that you are trying to do a viewport, and the purpose of a viewport is such that your content is fitted correctly within the device that is being consumed, that is consuming it, and you're going to see it live and direct. The content of what it takes is you're trying to tell it that the width, if you see the code there, the code is there, just carry it and dump it like that. The explanation is there. You have to say that the width is equal to the device width. You can see, if you can read it closely, it says the device width, and then the scaling is talking about how you should zoom it. How big should it be? When you say 1, meaning don't zoom or don't minimize, just make it fixed. That's what you've just told the browser to do to your content. And that's the major part of what we want to do. There's still more. I just want this to sink in. So the next thing we have is the link. The link allows you to bring other resources into the HTML page, and we will not be using the link now. But by the time we get to CSS, you'll be seeing how we'll be bringing style sheets into the page. So we're not doing CSS. Once we start CSS, you will see how we can use the link to bring in style sheets. Another thing again you can do is how to bring in icon into your page. I'm sure you've seen the likes of Google, and even this site itself has a logo. So if you do Google, for example, notice the G icon on Google, so you can do something like that on your own website. So let's see how that is possible. How possible is that? How do you get to do something like that? That is achievable. That is achievable by running this code, by specifying that you use the link, the keyword link, the tag link, and you use the rel. You specify that it's an icon. Notice that in the style sheet, you specify that it's a style sheet while bringing a CSS, because what the purpose of the link is to bring other resources that you will use, in developing the site. You bring in those resources into your document. That's what the link is all about. So this time around, you want to bring an icon to represent your web page. You want to put something like that on your title page. You could actually do that. We're going to do one together now. We're going to download an image online and put it. We're going to do a practical logo sample. So we just want to pick something online and use for what we want to do. So I need the ready-made logo. So let's look at this logo, for example. Right, let's pick this logo, and I'm gonna do a quick screen grab on my. Let me see if it can come in fully. Okay, so let's do a screen grab so that we can use this as our logo and see what we have. Okay, so I have that on my desktop. So what I need to do is, let's bring it up. Let's rename it as logo first on our desktop. This is it here. I'm going to change it to logo. So it's already in PNG. I'm going to copy it to our folder that we're developing. I'm just going to leave it right there, which is here. And the idea, looking at what the manual says that we're supposed to do, is to provide a link in the head. Notice that we're doing everything in the head section. Everything you're doing is in the head section, because why not? That's what we're talking about now. So you specify the rel rather, that is what is an icon. So these things you just do them once, and then you go ahead with the body of your website. So these things you just do them once, and then you can move on to the other things. So let's look at what else we have in our syntax to generate this. So this is the page. So you can see the requirement that we will need to specify the icon. We've done that. Then the reason why I came here is to explain what's going on. Then you specify the type. This type is the kind of file it is you are bringing in, because it's possible that you want to bring in a GIF, you want to bring in another image format. You have JPEG and what have you. So, but in this case, it's good. We are bringing in a PNG. So we're going to do image/PNG. Like this is what they call a mine type. This advanced stuff. Or you just put it like this. And then href is the location of what the icon is located. Notice that we named the icon as logo.png. So that's what we're going to do here. And we put it on the root directory. So we don't need to go and look for it. We don't need to go and look for it anywhere on the site, right? So let's put that together. So we have type and href. So we have type, image/png, then we have href, which is logo .png. So we have so we should have our icon display. Let's see. Okay, so if you guys can see closely, I don't know if you guys can see closely, but you can see the icon. The icon is showing. So these are the things that goes in the few of the things, by the way, that goes in the head section. You can see that even though it has a lot of things to do with your website, but we've not been concentrating on it because those things are secondary for now. You need to understand HTML first. But the reason why I'm taking this now is that it's the right time for us to take this. So the one I don't want you to forget is the viewport. Very important. Always put your viewport, in that spot. Always put your viewport there. And if you want to make your site fancy, of course, you can always put the logo. The style attributes of today, using style attributes. I'm sure by now we'll know what attribute is. This guy is attribute. This name is attribute. This character set is attribute. So how do you use style attribute? Style is an attribute that allows you to change the display of any element. We introduced it playfully on Saturday, but I didn't want to go too much in it. I'll repeat that definition again. Style is an attribute that allows you to change the face of an element. It allows you to apply CSS rule into any element. So we are going into territory of CSS now, because it's safe to do that, because at least now you have a background of HTML. You know what an attribute is. An attribute gives us more information about an element and allows you to perform an action to that element. So let's go ahead and start adding the style attribute. So the style attribute is captured by adding the style word here and specifying what is equal to. So what enters inside here is CSS properties. So as I've said, we are indulging into the CSS realm now. So this officially we are going into CSS. And I'll start by defining CSS. CSS is cascading style sheets. And what CSS does is allows you to beautify your website. All what we've been doing all this while are just black and white. Where are the colors? Where are the images? Where are the dancing fonts and things like that? That is where CSS come to being. Before I go further, I would like us to introduce some words now. Okay, we introduced it the last time, by the way. But yeah, we introduced it last time. Some keywords or some character. Very important. We introduced it last time, but I'm going to introduce them again because we'll be using them. So we've been using this. We've been using this. We've been using backspace. We've been using double quotes. That's what you use in your attributes. After you must have selected, define your attributes. You use the word equal to. So we've been using equal to as well. That's equal sign. We've been using the equal sign. You've been using I think equal sign should be here, and you're using quotes. Now we'll be using single quotes as well. Very important. You'll be using single quotes as well, followed by you'll be using column, and you'll be using semicolon. So I will show you where all these things are used. And being able to understand where these things are used will give you an idea of the way the syntax are done. I hope you understand what the meaning of syntax is. Syntax is the way you write code. Syntax is the agreed pattern in which the code should be written for any programming language. So for CSS now, there's a pattern in which you should write a script. It's a pattern. If you write it outside that pattern, it won't work. So let's go ahead and start defining some CSS properties. So you can see what I did here. I allowed us so that we can write so many things here. You can see what I did. Notice that everything is still inside here. I didn't break any rule. I can write as many things as I can write here. If you save now, it will just close it up for you. So what I did here was, to give me room to be able to express myself. That's what happened here. It still makes this code valid. So nothing has gone wrong here. So I'm wondering why it's not allowing us to display anything. Let me bring this document out here and bring it down. Our comment, I want us to be able to see that. Okay, so let's preview, because our preview is not working again. Let's preview it now. Okay, so our preview is back again. So let's go back to what we're doing. We wanted to start styling, we want to start learning styling. And what I did was to, put a carriage return here, break it down so that we can have a way to express ourselves. This part is very key. And the rule of providing a CSS, to define a CSS rule or styling to a particular element, you need to provide the property name, followed by what? Followed by a column, then followed by the property value. You can just say value. Then we terminate it by saying, when you are done providing the value, we terminate it by semicolon. And that's the rule. So once you follow this rule, you are good to go. That's the rule. And if by any means you need to provide maybe this value have a space in it, if by any means that the value has a space, the value needs to do a space, then you need to put this in a quote, a single quote. The reason why it's a single quote is because there's already a double quote outside, and that's one of the rules you will learn painfully in programming. When you are dealing with a double quote and you want to quote the next thing inside, you have to do a single quote. When you've done a single quote outside and you're going in, you have to do a double quote. So you can see outside we already have a quote to capture all the CSS rule, and inside it I can't do another double quote again. I have to do a single quote. Hence, this is what I did here. So let's move on. So I told you have to do a property name and then you do a value. This is how it goes. So let's start defining CSS property. CSS property are quite a lot of them, which we will not be able to cover it, and not in this video, and we are not able to cover it even in the entire CSS class. Most of them you keep discovering them as you go on. But number one, you need to know what it is you want to do first, because before you change any property of a CSS or an element, you need to have it in your mind that, okay, you want to make it red, you want to make it brown, you want to underline it, you want to make it bold. Those information, you need to have them first before you try to make those adjustments. So first of all, we want to default to to where we were before, and that is to make the background black. And the good thing about Visual Studio Code is that as you type, it tries to bring stuff off for you. So I type background, so it's giving me background color, which looks like what I want, and then I can say black, and then it does that. Obviously our text is also black, that's why the text is not showing again. The next thing I do is to specify text color. Unfortunately, it's not called text color, it's just called color. It's one of those things that you have to know. When you know. That's one of those things that your guessing will not just work. Sometimes your guess of the name might just work, and then it will go a long way. And this is how to define styling. This is how to use it. With this, you are good to go. Mind you, we've entered CSS territory, but we've not started discussing CSS as a full thing, because CSS is not just about styling. There's quite a lot of things that CSS handle, like positioning and and naming selectors. We'll get there. Okay, let's get to define the headers as red, for example. So the header 1 is here, and I want to style this to red, or let's use orange or yellow. I just come in here and add the style attribute. Remember what the style attribute does. It allows you to control the visual properties of any element. And what do I want to do? I want to change the color of the font and just say color. So that tells you that color is responsible for changing the text of anything. Notice that the body has, color in it, meaning the body contains a text. H1 as well is an header that can contain a text, meaning you can change the color of the text that it contains. And that's what we're trying to do. So let's say yellow. And once you are done, you can close what? You close. So notice the way I'm writing the syntax. Very important. I put the property name first. I put column to denote that is equal to something, and I put the color there. And to terminate it, I put semicolon. So you can write more classes, or rather more properties. But I'll just stop there. Let's go to the next one and give it orange color, and we can move on. I will then tell you other properties that we'll be looking at, next. So let's look at, I remember that I think we did this in the previous class. We did something like this in previous class. So we're going to move on to the next stuff now. So color, and we do orange. I think orange is going to pop. It's going to pop more here. Spelling orange. Okay, that's cool. So we are done with using style attributes. There's nothing special here. The idea is that you want to be able to style individual elements by yourself. That's the purpose of learning about style attributes, which by the time you get CSS, you will stop using style attributes. By the time we introduce CSS, you will stop using style attributes. This is just to give you a background information on how styling works. So if we look at what we have in the course outline, after the text attribute, or rather after the styling attribute, the next thing we are supposed to do is text formatting, because most of the things you'll be doing on website is moving text around, moving them around, specifying if they are bold, if they are italics, and what have you, to showcase. In one of our videos, we actually demo something that has to do with a shopping cart, where you have price of an item. So I'm going to try and replicate something like that, because we need something to look out for. We also did a wedding card, wedding invitation card. Maybe we should do that. So let's look for something that will involve let's do a live stuff that involve text formatting. So I can do a memo. Let's say memo. I want something that is that will be challenging for us a little bit. Okay, even though it looks like a letter, I want something that has picture, event invitation. Okay, so let's do this, guys. Let's design this, something like this. So this is like formatting, because you have to format the text. Before we design anything, we would first need to write all the text out. Let me save this to my desktop, save image, and look at it better. So I'm saving it. I don't even know where it's saved to. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do. I just pick this randomly, right? And I don't even know what they wrote on top here. I can't even see that. But we're going to focus on just doing something like this, and we're going to fill in the blank with what we can see. So I think it's a sparse stuff like that. So, but I can see grand opening. I can see some text on top and the bottom. So let's quickly design this.
Please join us as we celebrate.
Can you mute your side? Grand opening. Okay, you are trying to read for us. Okay, thank you. Please join us as we celebrate. I'm using glasses, so I can't see very well. Thanks for that. Please join us as we celebrate the grand opening of. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that in. Let's design it quickly. So I'm gonna clear everything we have here. Everything we know, we clear it, right? And I'm gonna leave some things here. I need to use my two hands. I've been holding the mic since. So let me use my two hands because I need us to do this quickly and move on. So we remove everything in the styling of the body. We remove all the content here. Yes, I want to teach you something very interesting. So we're starting afresh. Let me move this one, not that. Move this one. Okay. So what I want to do is also for us to be able to see what we are designing. Let me bring it here so that we can be seeing it and be checking back and forth and to see if we are getting it or not. So what I want to do right now, let me see if I can have 3 views. I think I can do that. Yeah, I can do this. So I can do something like this. Can it come to? I think we can do a 3 view. Yes. Do a 3 view. Good. Okay, but to just make our code a little bit smaller. Let's make our code a little bit smaller. Let's do 2020. It's a bit too small. Let's do 22. Okay guys, let's move on. So first of all, we don't worry about the design up and down. We first put in the content. The content, as in that's the text, is what we'll focus on. And the text, by default, you can first put everything in a paragraph and you change it later, but you can do it anyhow you want to do it. So I put the first thing up here as a paragraph. That's the first one as a paragraph. Please join us as we celebrate. I'll just put something there. Can't remember. Please join us as we celebrate. Okay, so we've captured that as what? As the first entry there, and it's very important for you guys to create a way that you design. Some people can design, some people can write everything first before they start designing. Some people would like to design it as they write it. So anyone that you want to choose is the same thing, or is okay. It's just to pick your own way that it will be okay for you, right? You need to pick the one that is okay for you and then you use it. But I want to go ahead and put everything. So because the grand opening is big, I can just style it as H1. You know, it's something I can just say H1 should carry that. I will do H1. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with using P for everything, but we need to style everything separately. So I will put this one as grand opening. So you can see that even though the grand opening, is broken to the next line. Remember how do you guys break to the next line? You know now, it's by using BR. So very important. No knowledge is wasted. Everything you're going to use everything that you've known, in doing this. Do you see what I did there? Is to break it to the next line. So let's move on to the next thing. The next thing is also, I can then use a paragraph to capture the next thing. I'll just type, I don't know what I'm saying. I'll just type, something there. But let's assume, whatever I'm seeing is supposed to be this. Yeah, I'm just putting that. I can't read this. Of our, I think it's of our something, sure. I'll just say of our something. Something, yeah. Okay, so you've been able to capture these days. The next one is like, that looks like, of course, is not as big as the grand opening, but it's like it's close. So that one can be like H2. Remember that we've just been using H1 all this while. There's also H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. And what that does is that it gives you level of what's it called, level of typography in terms of the bigness without you styling it. It gives you that level. So if you do H2 for example, and you do hello world, you can actually do, if you keep doing H3, you're going to see the difference. H4, H5, if you've not tried this before, so this is me trying it for you, so you can see it. H3, H4, H5, H6, so you can see what you have there. It just shows you level of typography, because it's possible that you are doing something and then you want to reduce the concentration on what you are doing. Of course, all these things have meaning. H1 means like is the header, H2 means is a subheading, so all these are like subheading. So let's move on to what we're trying to do. Okay, we have this called the pampered princess. The pampered princess. Okay, so we have that there. The next one is salon and day spa. So it can also, it looks like they have the same styling or the same width. Of course, it's having his own font is more spaced out, but that's fine. As I've said, I want to write everything first before I start designing. So salon and day spa. Even though everything is in capital letter, let's put in capital letter. But you can actually let CSS turn into capital letter for you. We'll use that to do. We'll use the CSS to convince the grand opening to do that for us. So let's go to the last thing, which is also in a paragraph. You can put that in a paragraph. The last thing on the bottom, which is so that one is saying that's the address. 23 Streets. You know this place. Okay, so we break to go to the next line. Finish with that part, and then that one say, okay, the next one is the date, Saturday, July 11, 2023, and the ones at the bottom, we still have the last one. It talks about the time. It now says 9 a.m. I think 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So. Okay, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, when they open. Okay, so now we have that there. Good. So the next thing for us is now to start styling. Let's hit it. Let's start styling. So we start from the top. You will notice that there's a space from here to here. We will not design this, guy later, but we need to put that space. We need to recognize that there's a space from here to here. How do you recognize that space? We also notice that there's a space on the left hand side. It's sort of like a container, like there's something containing, that gives space on the left and the right. How do you do that? How do you put this whole thing in the middle? I told you before now that we're entering the territory of CSS. So we're going to be doing some CSS. To apply that is going to be applied. Which element is it going to be applied on? Is going to be applied at the root element of the whole thing, which is called body. This body guy, that is what is going to hold how the first element is going to start. Notice this. Notice that your element is tightly compacted to the beginning of this, and by default is creating a kind of even space, but that space is not enough, or it might be too small. How do you adjust this space here? Even the top, how do you create a top space here? There is something for that already, and we are going to go into that, and that is called margin. Margin. The margin, you can change the margin from the beginning of this browser to anywhere you want. You can change it from the left, from the top, from the right, and from the bottom, and that's what we are trying to we will do right away. So right here, you go to styling because we want to add style attributes to our body so that the body can properly be, can properly house our content. So I just told you that what is responsible for that is margin. So if you do margin allows you to set properties of either you say the margin top, the margin left, the margin right, the margin bottom. So let's set individually. Let's try the margin left. So the margin left, the column there allows you to put the value of it. So I'm going to be focusing on numbers. So I can say 10 and px. So this part here, when it comes to measurement, we use pixels for now. There are several forms of measurement, and pixels is the tiniest dot on the screen. So we are saying from the left of the body, push the content to the left a little bit so that you can start. You can see it has adjusted a little bit, but it's not still visible. Let's make it obvious by saying 100 so that you can really see what is happening. So you see how I move it to 100, and you can see how it's drastically moved, but 100 is too much. So let's try 50 or even 40. So because our screen is not too big, let's just do 40, or let's do 20. Let's do 20 safe because our screen is not that big. So we'll do 20, and we're going to replicate these on the right hand side. We're still going to replicate it on the top, mind you, but if you can see, you will notice there's a small space on the top already, but it's not good enough for what we want. So we'll do for top, we can cut top 40. So you can see the breakdown. The top is still not good enough, but we can do 100. So you can see that space that I gave. So we can leave it there, and we can do right again. Margin right 20. Margin right 20. So right now, even though we can't see the margin right is 20. Now let's explain what we've done. What we've done is to create a kind of invincible barrier between our content and the body container. So you can see this edge of the browser is our barrier, which we are going to go in depth in CSS. This is just formatting. So the next thing we want to do is that notice that all our content is in the middle. That's like a given. Everything is in the middle. How do you move item to the middle? It's just by specifying a property called alignment, text alignment. So once you do text alignment like this, you can see it has various options, but we're just going to specify this one and say center. And what that does is that it puts all your stuff that you're doing in the center. That's what this part does here. It puts all what you're doing in the center. The next part is we don't have font. We want to change these ones into to be coily, or rather to be italics. So we will not do so many things here, as we won't go all out. So we'll just make it italics. So what I want to show you is how to make things italics is by just saying I. The I tag allows you to make any element or any content that it wraps itself around, it makes it an italics. And you can either specify italics by using CSS property or by just using a tag. So we're just going to use a tag for now. So instead of using paragraph, I can just change it to an I. So changing it to an I, convert this to what we have here. Of course, not with this font. Later we'll talk about how to bring in fonts. But I'm just using the default font that came with the system. Let's move on. Which other ones is italics is the one below it. So we can change this one to I as well instead of a paragraph, and also do the same thing to this. We have I. So we then have that done. So how do we work on this grand opening? First of all, the grand opening is all capital letter. You can easily solve that by just retyping it in capital letter. But I said I was going to show you how to do it in CSS. Of course, we will do our styling because we're about to say something. I want to do some stuff here. So we start with our styling. And how do you do capital letter for that? You do text transform, and you say uppercase. It changes to uppercase, irrespective of the fact that maybe you might have captured it in lowercase or whatever. Then notice that the grand opening is kind of spaced out. It's kind of stressed. So it requires you to there's a CSS property that you can use for this spacing. It's called letter spacing. Letter, because it's not a text. You want to specify individual letter from here. So we'll do letter. So because I know there's a spacing there. So letter, even though we type spacing, it didn't give us any results, or I didn't notice. So because it was not starting, so there's also word spacing, but that's not what we're looking for. It's there. So we didn't see it. So there's, because I know if you type something that relates to what you're looking for, the browser, or rather the editor, is supposed to give you, something that's close to it. So what we're looking for is letter spacing. And what's the number of, how do you want to space it out? Again, we are back to measurements. We'll be focusing on pixels, so we can do 5px, and then you have this. So you can see that it has increased the what we have there. So you can do maybe 9 or 10. Okay, so that can be it. Or let's say 14 or so, or 15. And this is what you will use to do other ones that we notice the spacing for, like the salon, day spa. We also use the spacing for it. Let's move on to what we have in the move on to the Pampers Princess. And what was implemented there was what? We have uppercase. So we implement this transform, text transform, uppercase there. So I just copy it and go to where? Go to H2 here. What do? I implement the style attribute and paste what I've copied, and automatically it changes to this. But notice that we have our princess, broken down to the next line. So I can just do that here. And I think it's a little bit smaller. Okay, well, let's leave the font there like that. So we break this one by doing PR. The salon is a little bit spaced out, so that's the second H2. We also use the spacing here, letter spacing. We copy that, we come and implement here in the salon. Okay, so I think that's too much. Let's try 10. Let's try 5. Okay, let's reduce it to 4, 3. Okay, also notice that even the address is also spaced out at the bottom. Everything there is spaced out. So what that means is that you come here and copy the same thing you did in the salon, and we add it to the paragraph tag, the P element. So you can see we just add the style there, and everything is all spaced out. But you notice it's smaller. It's smaller because this font is contending with all this other one. There's a tag I want to introduce, and it's called small. I just hope it won't be too small. So it's called small. So the purpose of small tag, or the tag called small element, is just to reduce the font without you specifically going to change the font size. That's what that does. So now that I've done that, we have this. But notice that there are color variations in all these stuffs, and I will just apply the color and we'll call it a day for today. So the color I mean is this part is kind of gray. It's not pure black, and we have some are lighter, some are darker, what have you. So those are aesthetics anyway, and you can always add those things and remove it. So I will take questions. I think that's just it. Color, to add color is just straightforward. You can just do color column, you do gray, and then you do that, and that gets applied to it. So you can see that this has taken off the color, you know, of that part. So you can, these other ones too, I think they are grayed out, these other ones. So I will take questions, guys. You can do style. So any element can have the style attributes. Any elements can have, I think all elements has the style attributes. Is one unique attribute that every element has. They have all that. So, but have you guys gone through this? Okay, this is the first time I'm going through text formatting, because we have a video online on this where you are supposed to go, and also practical. Everything I've shown you now is being cramped into 5-minute video that you can go and do and demonstrate, you know, to show that you can go and do and try it out, you know, so that you can do a recap of this whole thing I've gone through. If we have moved to, I think our next class will be on because that will make this whole thing interesting by the time we start dealing with images, because right now we can't bring in images yet. I've not shown you how to bring images. That would have been how we'll bring in this design and we'll put it here, and it will look, you know, it will look good and all that. So if I come to this now, I want to bring up the Telegram platform. Okay, so I was in general, I think we're in HTML. Okay, so we just finished this one now, the HTML text formatting, because we are close to getting to CSS. Immediately we finish these lessons, it means we are done with HTML, and then we can start welcoming ourselves into CSS and doing some little bit of advance of HTML. So we're in lesson 6. We were able to do lesson 3 today, you know, so we're in lesson 6. I will urge you to go and look at this one online, this lesson 3, but it's called lesson 8 online. I will send you guys the video so that you guys can look at it, and you guys can go and practicalize text formatting. So on our next class, I'm gonna take questions if you guys are having issues, because I don't want to rush the class. You know, it's not about covering the whole thing quickly, it's about understanding what we have out there. So I'm taking questions, guys. Thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on bell notification in order to be notified when we release new videos. See you in the next one.